This videocast is aimed at Year 10 students on the completion of their Key Stage 3, and it focuses on the module of light. This videocast is all about how we use refraction in different applications, and we will also be learning about dispersion of light. Let's start with refraction then. To remind ourselves what refraction is. Refraction is when light bends. So when light bends, this is called refraction. And refraction happens because the light changes speed. And it changes speed because it enters a more dense or less dense medium. For example, when light enters a more dense medium, for example going into glass, it bends towards the normal. Then we have the opposite scenario when light enters a less dense medium. For example, going from glass into air, it bends away from the normal. And we must be aware of which way it bends in each circumstances. Also, if the incident ray hits a surface at 0 degrees, in other words, the incident ray comes in along the normal, then no refraction occurs. So let's look at the implications or effects of refraction. Many visual effects are caused by refraction. This ruler appears bent because the light from one end of the ruler has been refracted, but light from the other end has travelled in a straight line. The refraction occurs for the section of ruler that is in the water. The light rays coming from the ruler travel more slowly through the water, and then they bend away from the normal to our eyes, whereas the light rays coming from the top of the ruler are travelling through air only and come straight to our eyes without any refraction. Would the ruler appear any more or less bent if the water was replaced with glass? Well, glass is optically more dense than water, therefore the ruler would appear more bent. Another effect of refraction is that of apparent depth. Rays of light from a stone underwater get refracted as they leave the water. Your brain assumes these rays of light have travelled in straight lines. So your brain assumes the ray of light has come along from a dotted line, as shown here, and straight to our eyes. Therefore, your brain then forms an image at the place where it thinks the rays have come from. The stone appears to be actually higher than it really is. Your brain assumes that the light rays have come in a straight line and does not take account of the fact of refraction at the surface of the water. So to lead into dispersion then, before we meet the term dispersion, if we have different coloured light, it's also refracted. So glass makes light bend, but different colours will bend by different degrees. If we look at the red ray, the blue ray and the green ray, red bends the least. So it's refracted the least. Blue light bends the most, and red light bends the least, as we can see in these diagrams. Green light bends somewhere in the middle between the two. But how much would a glass prism bend the white light? Before we move on to an image of it, let's just look at what bending's happening. We have an incident ray, and if we draw a normal, we can see that it is bent towards the normal as it enters the glass prism, and then if we drew another normal as it leaves the glass prism, it is bent away from the normal again. The same happens for each colour. When we transmit white light into this prism, in the same scenario, we have a ray box and we have a ray of white light. What happens is that the red bends the least, the violet or blue bends the most, and the other colours bend in varying degrees in between. So white light gives us this very surprising result. The glass prism bends the light and shows a complete rainbow of colours. This tells us then that white light is actually made up of a whole range of different colours. In physics, we call this rainbow of colours a spectrum. This image at the bottom is an actual photograph of bending of white light in a glass prism. The white light has entered the prism, it has been refracted, and as it leaves the glass prism, the colours, the spectrum of colours becomes more obvious. Why does each colour bend at varying degrees? Well, each of the colours of the spectrum, remembering again, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and you must learn the order of the colours. Each of them has a slightly different wave. If we look at the red wave, the green wave, and the blue wave, the difference from red to green to blue is in the wavelength. Red has the longest wavelength, green has shorter, and blue has the shortest of the three. So red has the longer wavelength, and it has refracted the least. Blue has the shortest wavelength, and it has refracted the most. The different colours of light have different wavelengths, as we saw in the previous slide. This means they are bent or refracted by different amounts. Which colour is refracted the most? Red light is refracted least because it has the longest wavelength. And violet light, at the very bottom of the spectrum, is refracted the most because it has the shortest wavelength. And you must learn that range of colours in the order, starting with red refracted the least.